Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and Black Bolt, issue number 12 of 12. Here we go. So, what happens in this book is everything gets resolved. And you'd think that it's just, a quick little tie-up. The trick is that this book wasn't canceled. This book was meant to only go 12 issues. More on that later, but essentially everything gets wrapped up in here perfectly. There is no rush. Okay, like I remember the Unstoppable Wasp. I think that was issue 10 that it ended at. Either way, you could tell that the book was canceled, and it was one of those things where it's like, oh no, let's just hurry up and wrap things up really, really quickly here. Sin of Grace had more time with Iceman, and when that book was canceled on him, and just whatever, man. Like when a book gets canceled, it kind of stinks, right? But here, it was known that this was only going to go to like 12 issues. So the whole story got to be told at the pace that they wanted to tell it at. So that's awesome. Basically, Black Bolt is able to come into his own. That's what I'm looking for. He's coming into his own in this comic, kind of like a rebirth. He starts off as a kid again, and he kind of has to get over all of that nonsense that happened to him when he was a kid from King Aegon, his father. He was abused in like the worst way, and not necessarily by being beaten, but by being put in an isolation chamber. I want you to honestly think about this, what I'm saying? Like, just to slightly touch on torture and whatnot, waterboarding and all these different forms of torture, enhanced interrogation, if you will. They don't work. It's known. It's proven that they don't work. But what is the one form of torture that really does work on people? It's isolation, solitary confinement. That's the kind of thing that will actually drive you crazy. That's the kind of thing that will get somebody to break down and just anything. Please just let me have social, connection again. Seriously, that's messed up. As somebody who, I have an affinity, a love for psychology, and that's a frightening aspect to realize, especially those of us who prefer to be alone. But he was tortured like this by his parents, and he kind of had to get over all of that. This was something that affected his relationship with his son, and man, what a great way to show that. So they kind of deal with what's his name, Absorbing Man coming back, and they have to together they team up against Titania is hysterical in this, but they have to team up against the jailer, and you get to see his actual physical form, his inhuman physical form, and it's all resolved. And it's all resolved pretty well, I think. It's not one of those lovey-dovey, redemption story type thing. No, it's not necessarily, or at least it's Black Bolt who gets redeemed. You know what I'm saying? Nobody else needs it. But there's forgiveness all around, and it's cool, man. And like, you'd figure Blinky. What are they going to do with Blinky, of all things? And they actually have an answer for what they're going to do with Blinky. Over in the Inhumans comic book, Medusa cheated on Black Bolt. They'd gotten together at the end of Inhumans Prime. They'd gotten together again, in fact, at the end of Uncanny Inhumans, issue number 20, I think that was the last issue, they'd gotten together again. So what's going on? How come all of a sudden now she's cheating out because some other writer decided, you know what? I think it'd be great to have her get with Gorgon. Fail on the epic scale. I don't think there was one person who actually liked that. Excuse me. Anyway, so Saladin Ahmed rectifies that. He actually started rectifying that 3 issues ago. But here, it's finally finished, and I'm happy with the resolution. I'd prefer that they were actually together again, but this actually, considering what happened, and you can't just erase what happened in the comic books, unless you're Chelsea Kane and you just decide, something like the end of Mockingbird issue number 8, where she just completely retcons the most beautiful Mockingbird story ever. And she just completely rectifies it. So she say, well, she's not a victim anymore. She chose to just be a bad person. That's not acceptable. And that's disrespectful to the writers who came before you. So there's that. But here, Saladin Ahmed doesn't disrespect anybody. he keeps that storyline, and that's noble, and it's also very creative. I can't talk enough about how good this comic book is, except that at the end, the last page, right back here, you get a lot of commentary by Saladin. You get Christian Ward having a conversation. You get Clayton Cowles having a, did I say his name right? Yes, I did. VC's Clayton Cowles. You know what I'm saying? Like, so this is the company that does the lettering, because he was mentioned by Christian Ward. So he gets to have a quick little conversation. And what is he saying here? Blinkagar Bunktagon. Blinkagar Bunktaton. That's actually in the first issue. That is the name of Blinky. That is awesome. They actually revealed it there, but it was in the weird script that he did. That is amazing. And then Will and Sarah, the two editors on this. That's pretty cool, man. Like, they really jump on this. So they also say where they're going. So what's his name? Saladin is going to join the Exiles, which I knew that. And Christian Ward is going to be joining with Jason Aaron in Thor #1. Fantastic. Okay, so and look at that. I think we saw that. I'm going to be talking a lot more about that. Actually, got something over here with a bunch of the Thor art in it. But that's one of those things, like, that's really cool that they're going to do this. They're going to continue in a different way. Where is the Thor? Okay, whatever. I've got it on the first page here. I'll just show you this. Oh, it's all on the first page. Take that. Here, there's these two images. Right? Pretty cool. And then there's one more. There's a big full-page spread right here. Thor issue #2. Look at that. So, and Christian Ward likes to do his own covers, which I genuinely appreciate. I love when somebody does their own covers. Somebody else comes along and does the variant covers. Don't care. So that is, oh, there he is again. So right on the front cover. But that is cool, man. So, because I was wondering, like, what are they going to do with Christian? And I was really scared, okay? Because if you go over and you look at my review for, what the heck comic book was it? For crying out loud, Echo was on it. Anyway, Astonishing X-Men issue #10. I was not happy with that. I couldn't even finish it because I just didn't like the art on it. The art style, love the art style, but not for that comic book, not for that story. It just didn't work for me. It was too confusing, too many double-page spreads. It lost its luster, and it's like, okay, no thank you, goodbye. I couldn't even finish the comic book, like, that bad. Well, that's because Eiko was just kind of thrown on a book and he thought he could use the exact same art style to do whatever he wanted. Well, you can clearly see by what I just showed you and what's in the Black Bolt comic book that Christian Ward, though he has a very unique art style himself, he's able to change his art style enough so that it looks different. Because this that happened inside this book, just any old random page. Oh, I also like that Crusher Creel is the guy who's dignified in this week's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Ad in the comic books, you know, since he's actually in this comic book and he comes back alive in the comics. So that's pretty cool. I got to remember to mention that in my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. review tomorrow night. But anyway, like this, you know, just all the things that he does. This art style isn't going to work in a Thor comic book. It's not going to work in a Spider-Man comic book. It's not going to work anywhere. This is meant to be confusing. This gorgeous page, this is the coming of age sort of story where he lets go of his childhood, of his past. Gorgeous, you know? This isn't going to work in every comic book. So he keeps his art style, but he changes it just enough to really match where he's going. That is an impressive feat. That is a genuinely impressive feat. And I am completely beside myself. And I actually meant to wear a hat for this particular issue, just so that I could, you know what? Here, let me just... just so that I could take it off for the crew. Literally. Like, this is one heck of a comic book series. And, you know, I'm no fool. I understand that they made 12 issues specifically because this is what's going to fit in 2 volumes of the trade paperback. It's cool, baby. Whatever. They made it work. So I can look past all of that, you know? And I can honestly say to myself that, you know, here it is. Me and a whole bunch of others who were with this comic book consistently from issue number 1 and month after month, waiting to see it in the racks again. And what's in my pull box? The latest Black Bolt, yay! Like, saying we're looking forward to it. That was a heck of an experience. That was one hell of a ride. But I gotta say, I'm a little envious of the new reader who comes along, hasn't seen this or any other review about Black Bolt. Nobody told this person about the comic book, and then sees this trade paperback, the first one, and says, oh, look at this. It's maybe a sale, a buy one, get one half off or something like that, trade paperback. So buys both volumes and gets the entire set, and in one sitting gets the opportunity to read this entire story. I'm a little envious, and I kind of wish that I could just go back and read this all again in one sitting for the first time. That would be kind of amazing. That's how good this series was. So yeah, hats off to Saladin Ahmed, to Christian Ward, and to everybody, VC's Clayton Cowles, to everybody who was involved in this. This was one heck of a work. This was epic. Wow. A guy who can't talk, and let's make a 12-issue comic book series about him. Any doubt this is getting an A+++? Man, fantastic comic book. All right, guys, that's it. I'm out. Enough gushing over this comic book. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.